Well, you've chosen an excellent time to tune into the Untitled Film Project Podcast because this time we're talking about Five Nights at Freddy's. Super, very popular video game that we knew eventually was going to become a movie in which, the game, a lot of jump scares, simple game, but just so many people loved it of so many different ages that it had to be a movie, and it is.
Welcome to Freddy's. Have you met them yet?
Met who?
Foxy, Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy.
We'll tell you what we thought of Five Nights at Freddy's, and we'll also ask the big question.
And that question is, so in our previous episode, we talked about our most forgotten film of the year. Well, we have about a quarter left. No, 2 months left, right?
Sure.
What's the movie you're looking forward to the most for the rest of the year? Now, granted, there's not as much coming out because things have been delayed.
So
you might have to dig a little deep here for these next 2 months to figure out what we're really looking forward to. But it's award season. Things are still going to get released that want those awards considerations. So let's see if there's anything out there coming up.
All right. Five Nights at Freddy's breaking records at the box office like we probably all imagined it would. Maybe not as much as it did because it's been very popular. Let's get our initial takes on Five Nights at Freddy's.
Jim, why don't you go ahead and start on this one?
Okay. Well, a person that did not play any of the games, Five Nights at Freddy's, familiar with it, knew the vibe, the genre, basically why people liked it, went into this movie expecting a lot of jump scares. It's a Blumhouse production. They're a film company that, let's just say the best movie they've ever made before this was Megan. And like, compared to many of their other movies, Megan is Academy Award winning. I don't have a huge amount of respect for Blumhouse. But Five Nights at Freddy's was not what I expected. I really just expected pretty much, let's see a security guard trying to survive at night inside Chuck E. Cheese type restaurant with animatronic bears and stuff. While that was part of it, they mixed in a whole other story with Josh Hutcherson's character trying to keep custody of his little sister and his internal demons, and I found this movie kind of a mess. So I really don't know what to think, what this movie was trying to do. When it was over, I walked out there going, huh? So there's my initial take. Gover, what did you think?
I thought it was good for what it was.
Okay.
But I agree that to me it seemed to be doing different things at different times.
Yes.
Elizabeth Lail, who plays the cop, seemed to come out of nowhere.
Vanessa.
And have she took to the place and just kind of checked, just what? And then finally at the end we realized why.
I call her Officer Explanation because she was telling the audience all kinds of stuff.
That's right. So her character's only in there for that. It was so I don't know. Okay, I just don't know.
As a second person who was stupefied after seeing this movie.
That's my initial take. I don't know.
Bradford.
So, not that it was exquisite, but I enjoyed it.
Okay.
Because it played out like a video game. Now, we've seen video game movie adaptations that weren't feeling like a video game in the movie because they made it into a movie. Here, the movie felt like a video game because Officer Explanation, what do you get in video games a lot of times? You have the character that explains things to you, whether you're playing Zelda or things like that.
Okay. Walk up to this wizard and they tell you what you need to do.
I don't need your explanation.
Right.
Okay, now let me get on to my adventure.
There was no A button, is what we're saying. There's no A button in this movie.
So this film, it was released in theaters and Peacock at the exact same time, yet it still made over $100 million. There was obviously a segment of fans that were just chomping at the bit, for lack of a better phrase,
nice.
to view this adaptation and to view one of their favorite video games turn into a movie. And it's overall being very well received by the general audiences. And for me, when I'm looking at it like that, I did not play the game. I wanted more horror in it. more thriller, because to me it felt more like a thriller than a horror. And because it was a PG-13 rating, like, there's not much they can show on screen. A lot of it was implied, or you hear sounds, things like that, not on the screen, which I'm not necessarily a horror guy. We've talked about this before, but I wanted a little bit more of that. But I can tell that they're world building here, because they're not going to give you everything in the first film, because they want to build something that's going to have a sequel. And given the reception it's received in the box office and on streaming, it's going to have more than one movie.
If they haven't signed the papers already, it's just because they haven't told us.
So, sorry, but the mystery behind it, I kind of enjoyed that aspect of being delved into of what was happening here and there. I love seeing Matthew Lillard on screen in another horror movie. I love him on screen. He overall, just as a person too, you can tell he's been a great person. He has fun on screen. He does so many voice acting roles. It's fun to see him in movies. I just really enjoy seeing him, even though it's fairly limited overall. I enjoyed it. I just enjoyed it. It wasn't amazing. It didn't blow me away, but I got kind of what I needed, a little bit of jump scare. It was funny, just like Megan. There were hilarious moments where I'm just laughing at the movie, which you can tell I think were meant to happen. So I think some of the drama overall was just too much in it, that they were pushing too much, trying to force too much of you to feel something in this movie as well too. But that's my initial take.
Let's dive deeper a little bit into, let's go inside the bear, which we got to see some of that, or at least the machine that makes that happen, with Five Nights at Freddy's. And let's start with Gover.
Just, I mean, what I said. I don't know, you guys. This is
a short episode.
Josh Hutcherson brings all he can to the role.
Right.
I did enjoy the dynamic between him and Piper Rubio, his sister. I enjoyed the compelling storyline of his younger brother being kidnapped. I thought that was an interesting take as well. Okay. Well, just kind of an outside the box, a little bit left of center type of delivery. So not only does he have this not daughter, but which they addressed in the film with a piece of dialogue, by the way.
Sure.
So it's his sister who he's trying to protect, and he has this emotional need to protect her because of his brother being
what happened
taken,
to his other sibling?
right?
Yeah.
So that did set up a nice little emotional roller coaster for me. Not that I'm going to write home about, but just like, okay, you've struck a nerve in that regard. Like, I can see how that would be terrifying, or you'd have PTSD from that, or you try to fight that battle your whole life, even though you can't think about it. I can see all that. That's great. I bought in. Again, Josh Hutcherson was great. But I cannot get over, again, Elizabeth Lail's character. It was so out of nowhere. Now, again, please understand. I have not played a single second of this game. I don't even know if I've even seen a screenshot of the game. I've seen the cover and things like that. But my son talks about it a lot. But I've never seen anything. So maybe there's a cop that does that. And if that's the case, then it works. But somebody who's never seen it or played, you have to, when you're creating a movie from an entity, you have to get the audience up to speed. And that was her whole point of her character, like Jim said, was to explain for the audience this thing. But her presence just showing up at this thing, that made no sense.
But did it make more sense when the twist happened?
Well, yeah, but I'm not waiting for it at that
I would
point.
say, well, no, it didn't make more sense. It gave me only more questions.
Okay.
And I'm going to say, I'm just going to put this out there because I know everybody that's listening to this that is deeper into the game and the canon of Five Nights at Freddy's are going, you guys missed this entire subplot. You missed this entire subplot.
For sure.
I've seen all the stuff on TikTok about all the explanations, and there is so much more here that we missed. But we can only give you what we have coming into the movie. No, when she reveals that obviously the baddest of the bad is her dad, I just was more confused. I'm like, okay, why are you helping him? Why are you helping dad? Why are you like, there's so many horrible things going on, and you obviously have a dad that's so bad that he does something terrible to her. I'm not spoiling anything. Why is she protecting him? What was the reason? So even when it was revealed what her connection to the rest of the story was, it didn't make any sense. It didn't jive. Why?
And I'll also add one more log to that fire is when he comes on screen as his work placement officer or whatever
Yeah.
right. And he says, "I have a job for you." I knew immediately he was the guy. Immediately,
I did too.
like it wasn't even a question.
I don't think that was supposed to be as.
But they played it like it was. They played it like, "Hey, you don't know that he's the kidnapper and that he's."
But as soon as he saw the last name, that's when it clicked.
Yeah.
So like there was a reason. They were planting a seed. Okay.
Yes.
Here's the way I'm looking at this. The target for that. This is a tween horror movie.
Yes.
So it is not meant to be rendered by adult minds to where it's like, well, yeah, we know he's the bad guy in this. I think that's okay.
That's true.
In that, I'm not saying that should affect our scores or anything like that. Because
Sure.
of what we take and what we think about the movie. But in terms of how they're doing it, they're setting up that there is obviously something very fishy about this dude because it's not the last we hear from him.
There was a major plot point being advanced there that I looked and I turned to my daughter, who's 25 and loves horror, and we both looked at each other at the same time and said, he didn't say his last name.
Exactly.
But he saw his last name, and that's when he gave him the job. So that's important. So
Right.
like we knew there was something to it.
It's like a video game. They were planting a seed just like in a video game. And so, like I was saying, in terms of adaptations, this one is going more directive of feel like a video game. Where in video games, a lot of times you're going WTF.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And that, a lot of people
true.
won't like that. I think a lot of critics, for a good reason, I always bring it up, on Rotten Tomatoes, it is a 30% critic score, because as a movie itself, it's not going to be well received.
Right.
As a fan adaptation for video games and what people have been wanting for, 88%. So the people this was targeted to,
they're not there for
loving
traditional storytelling.
They're not. And so that's why I think overall we are like, because we're seeing things like, well, you just gave away the whole story right there.
Right.
But in a
15
video
minutes
game, in a video game, it's okay if you kind of know who the villain's going to be, but you still have to get to that point to face the final villain.
Then why play it that way?
That's the question.
I know, that is the question.
So
but that's
to
the
me,
question the critics are asking too.
Right. So to me, it's lazy filmmaking.
I think it's a movie that didn't know what it wanted to be. I mean, like it wanted to
Moneymaker.
Yeah. Thank you. That's what it wanted to be. They wanted to print cash.
And it did its job.
Okay, well, it did. It did. But I think, when they made the movie, okay, they obviously knew they were going to make money and they needed to make money and people were going to come regardless, right? But I also think they were trying to, okay, well, let's try to make this subplot with, Mike's, predicament of needing a job and his, backstory of losing a sibling and everything. And to me, it felt like two different movies that barely intersected. I frankly... Now, and this is because I'm not a Five Nights at Freddy's player, I thought it was scarier in his flashbacks when he saw the children.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Than anything else inside, the Fantastic Freddy's or whatever.
That felt more real, too.
It did.
Because he's going back into a memory of something that really, truly happened. I think in terms of the way that they edited the sound and everything, it's quiet. He's in the woods by himself.
Those kids creep me out.
There's a kid with a freaking hook. I mean...
Right.
Yeah, it is a little more scary because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what jumps. I'm waiting for more jump scare in the woods than it was in Freddy's because I'm like, okay, we're hearing audio animatronics coming in here and they chunk, chunk, chunk.
Yeah.
So that's not as scary. It's laughable scary to me, which I think is totally fine too.
Yeah, it's the old scary of like Frankenstein who walks at a quarter of a mile an hour and somehow gets people.
But the freaking cupcake, that was scary.
Cupcake is hypersonic missile.
Unhinged.
Who, by the way, was the only character I knew about going into this movie because it has a Funko Pop. My entire research depends on Funko Pops sometimes, and in this one, the only thing that informed me was that cupcake Funko Pop.
It's actually probably helpful for everybody who is a regular for this podcast, is just know that Gover is going to be looking at the world through Funko Pop lenses.
I can't help it. Okay,
Hey,
I
it's
know
what
what comes out, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Never heard of that before. And then a year later, a movie comes out. Well, that's my
It's all right.
Life in plastic.
You love your... It's fantastic. Funko Pops, if that's your thing, you go for it. You wave that freak flag high, and we salute you. So it's fine.
Dang.
You like it? Go for it. Woo. Five Nights at Freddy's. Let's get some final takes on this and scores. Then we get to our big question. Let's start with Mr. Bradford.
All right, so going into this, I didn't necessarily know exactly what to expect, but given the trailers, I expected there to be humor mixed in with the horror, just like in Megan. I'm seeing these productions, you're starting to see a formula take place of what Blumhouse is going for in these types of movies, because they have so many different horror types of movies and different levels, tiers of horror, what they're going for. Right?
Yes, there's many.
There are many, many tiers, and this tier of horror are the moneymakers right now because you're getting a wider audience attracted to it, whether it's a video game or something that's kind of based on AI but humor involved in it, because look how meme-worthy Megan has become. It's been at Hollywood Horror Nights at Universal Studios with Megan's dancing. You're going to see more of this, so there's no doubt going to be a haunted house at Horror Nights at Universal for Five Nights at Freddy's.
It's fun.
There's merchandise to be had, Funko Pops, things like that. There's so much to be had with this that they're making money behind it, and I'm okay with that because they're still catering to an audience that wants this type of movie. I wanted more scary in this, but what I do like in terms of how they try to build a plot at all through this movie is the first time we see Josh Hutcherson, it's that dream book with the other security guard, right?
Yeah.
And they're planting that seed of what he's trying to do, which is still find his brother's kidnapper from the get-go. He's trying to explore that more so. So at least that didn't come out of nowhere like the cop did.
No.
His whole premise. So his character was actually built pretty well.
That was told well.
Yeah, his character was built pretty well. He gave everything. In terms of his performance and the types of roles that he's going in, I think he's totally fine in these types of roles. The child actor, I think she did a pretty bang-up job for the role that she was given, too. But overall, I wanted a little bit more scary. I was fine with the humor and the horror behind it, like Matthew Lillard. For what it is, I give it a 6.5.
Okay. This is Jim. I didn't go in as a fan, but I did expect some of those same things. I didn't get as many of those things from the actual Freddy character, like Freddy and the rest of the animatronics. So I was a little disappointed that wasn't more interesting. To me, also, they were very inconsistent. Do I root for these bad guys, or do I root
dead children, Jim?
Dead children, or do I hate them? I didn't know how to feel about them.
They were manipulated, Jim. They were manipulated.
I know.
Manipulated ghosts.
But I don't know. But if that ghost is trying to kill you, is it self-defense? If you're trying to kill the kid
first
that's trying to kill you,
make a decision.
Okay, I don't know.
I just love the statement. Do I root for the dead children?
Because they're dead, they're being bad, and they need to be punished.
But they're already dead, so therefore they've already been punished.
God.
Yeah, boy,
this got dark real
this
quick.
Is so existential.
We should have Anthony Jeselnik on the show.
I think Josh Hutcherson did a decent job, and so did Piper Rubio, who played his little sister. Mary Stuart Masterson, who played a cartoonish aunt trying to get custody, was terrible.
So stereotypical.
Yeah, it was just so bad.
So cookie cutter.
Elizabeth Lal, who did, Sergeant Exposition. I liked her. It was weird. There were so many questions about, too. Do I root for her? She's still helping Dad kill people. There were so many weird things. It was sort of told okay, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. Mr. Gover.
The villain in Five Nights at Freddy's was just this side of Scooby-Doo.
That's not far off, yeah.
But it's not good. It's like, again, he was fine, but they introduce him early, and then he just disappears for 80% of the film. Then he comes back as Old Man Westerson or whatever the Scooby-Doo character is. It was just, it was immediately predictable, and I hated that, honestly. They're not trying to win awards, though. That's the bottom line. They're not trying to win awards. They're trying to print cash.
And they certainly have.
And they be doing that.
They are. It was entertaining for what it was. I was able to enjoy myself in the theater while watching it. Am I going to remember next year that I even saw this? Probably not. 6.0.
That is way higher than I expected.
I really thought you'd go lower.
I thought it was going to be like a 4.5 or 5.
It was a mess. Okay, we talked about that. It was a mess. It didn't know what it wanted to do.
Okay.
But Josh Hutcherson was good. The story about the kidnapped brother was good. The flashback sequences were good.
Yeah.
The acting performances were fine.
Yeah.
The little sister, breaking news for Gover here.
Yeah.
Really good.
He liked the child actor.
which never happens on this show. She was good. So there are redeemable qualities about this.
Question for you.
And what's been curious to me too is I'm seeing lots of people taking like their 8, 9, 10-year-olds to this. It is just enough not scary to where they can introduce them to a horror genre. So I see this as another introductory of horror for a lot of these kids because they've been desensitized by the video game, so they are aware of a lot of what's going on.
Right.
So it's kind of curious to see, like, oh, I took my 9-year-old. They loved it.
There are 2 scenes that I think my son who's 11 couldn't see. That opening scene in that Saw movie, contraption
coming
towards
to
his
his
head.
face, yeah.
That's number 1. And then number 2 is one of the flashback scenes when he's talking to one of the boys. The boy turns around with like the black goo out of his eyes.
Yeah.
Other than those 2 things, I think he'd be totally fine.
Okay. Yeah. Would your score have gone up or down if Matthew Lillard's character would have pulled
Pauly Shore? No, sorry, what?
if he pulls the mask off of the head and said, and I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids.
Would have got a 9.
Okay, Untitled Film Project Podcast. We scored Five Nights at Freddy's. Now let's get to our big question.
All right, the big question is we have 2 months left in the calendar year. Some movies that were expected to come out got delayed thanks to the strikes.
Dune!
So there's still movies that are coming out. It's still award season. Which one are you looking forward to the most? Jim, let's start with you.
Yeah, you're the movie house guy.
Wow.
The art house.
The art house,
guy?
that's the word.
The
I was
movie
thinking.
house
Thank you.
guy.
I knew as I said it, I was like, that's not right.
Hey, you're the one that goes to the moving picture shows.
Okay, here's one. I didn't, because no movies have been marketed well at all this year,
can't be.
or at all, right? Is a movie that I didn't know even was coming out until about a week ago when a friend of ours had tweeted something about it, and it is Napoleon.
How did you not know?
I didn't know.
Oh,
it didn't hit me.
I cannot wait.
How did you not know?
Apparently the algorithm missed me.
Well, when we do go see screeners, we don't typically get previews.
I
So
still go to
can
the movies without screeners, though.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, I can see how.
Okay. It's been getting trailered for like 3 months.
Wow. Not at the movies I'm going to. But then again, I just have to keep putting quarters into the machine and to keep seeing what happens
For
next.
the curtain to come up and you get a little flash and it goes back
A
down.
little dance, yeah. So Napoleon, because that's why I was so shocked, and I'm so, I guess, excited about this movie. It stars Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon, which I think is great casting.
It is.
Vanessa Kirby is in this movie, and which I think she's just great. So this French military emperor. This movie is set in obviously a historical period, and it's directed by Ridley Scott. I mean, who brings you things like Gladiator and just so many thrilling, great, epic films that I am very excited to see this. I know there's going to be battle scenes in the trailer that I did look up. Since I found out it was going to be on, I did get a very Gladiator vibe. And, to me, that's a great thing. So I don't know what the buzz is on this film, ahead of this movie. I try not to find out. But as far as movies with potential to be very exciting and well acted, I'm going with Napoleon.
All right.
Bradford?
So for me, I'm going to go with Migration. No, I'm just kidding.
Sing 9.
Oh my gosh.
Aquaman,
No.
The Lost Kingdom.
No. Here's the thing. Migration, though, it could be cute and have some fun lines, but it's not going to be a good movie. No, not Trolls either. This is the one that I'm not necessarily really excited per se, but I'm very curious in how they do it, and that's Wonka.
Oh, yeah, with Timothy Chalamet.
And Hugh Grant and everything. So it's the prequel. People are like, wow, they're making another one. I'm like, well, they're not making another one. They're making the prequel of how Willy Wonka became Willy Wonka. So I'm curious on how they do that. Plus, it's Timothy Chalamet. We're not getting Dune, but we're getting Wonka
Right.
for Timothy out there. So I'm just curious on it, too. It should be a bright film. It should be just... The cinematography should be very curious about it. The CGI, I'm very curious as well, too. How they handle the Hugh Grant thing and his character. So I'm curious about it. It's not like I'm excited that I think it's going to be amazing. It's piqued my curiosity.
The look of the movie is kind of, it's more Harry Potter than it is Tim Burton.
Magical musical mystery type of thing.
Yeah. I am also curious. Yeah, that's a neat one.
Gover.
You know, I want to say Color Purple, and I want to say Ferrari as well.
Oh, yeah.
But
with Adam Driver.
I think I have to be that guy, and Trolls band together.
Really?
I'm so sorry, Bradford. I freaking love the Trolls franchise. I
Okay.
think it's so fun and it's family friendly, which I don't really care about. But it's just, my point is it's entertaining for the family. Usually when you go see a family movie, it's like great for the kids. The adults are like, okay, is this over? Like, right? Both Trolls movies, even the first one is clearly better than the second one. It's a good time out. Okay. And so I have
Use the Shrek model.
Sure. Whatever
Because
works.
there's plenty of adult humor.
That's a pretty
in there,
good
while also
comparison.
I like
speaking
it.
nostalgia because of fairy tales and everything like that.
Yeah, so forget the fact there's a new NSYNC song and all that, right? That's all great, but it's more icing on the cake. I'm just thrilled there's another Trolls movie because even the holiday special they did, the digital holiday special for it was 20 minutes or whatever, even that was fun.
Okay.
So I just love the fact that we're getting another Trolls movie and I get to go see that with my family. So I'm going to go Trolls.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
It's kind of like a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of movies that are coming out that are a lot of fun, maybe a little scares, a little bit of humor. It's something we saw in the 80s quite a bit.
Interesting.
So, like, it almost seems like this could be a whole different subject. I'll just say this: I'm getting the feel of a lot of movies that are coming out that are going back to the template of the '80s. Which is they were mass appeal. They were a little scary, but not too scary that you can't bring the little ones. And it's just, you're going to make money.
Because if you need to bring 4 people to the theater, it has to be available to all of them.
Everybody's going to be happy. You can't have 2 grumpy people or else it's a terrible experience. Can't be the parents, can't be especially the children.
So in that case, Jim, too, what I would hope for would be some good action adventure family movies.
Yeah.
Like a Goonies or something like that.
Sure.
Not recreating that,
Right.
but what's a good, unique
But that
storytelling
feel.
aspect that has a good action adventure that doesn't have to be fully adult, but not fully kid.
Which
think-
there was in Uncharted. We got Uncharted with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. That fit
It's
that
video
bill.
game based, though. So.
No, sure, but I mean that fit that bill great.
Sure,
it was
sure.
kind of a cookie cutter, nothing special, but still good, entertaining.
I need more adventure and mystery
movie.
and some behind it, like that feel to where it has a kid on their edge of their seat where they're going to be connected to it for the rest of their lives.
So a teenage Knives Out is what you need.
Yeah, that's it. Well,
Yeah.
very interesting.
yeah, something like that.
Dungeons and Dragons movie kind of gave us a little bit of
a
that.
little bit of that.
That was
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
surprisingly good.
It was.
I agree.
It's an
More of that
enjoyable
kind
movie.
of stuff.
Yeah. So I and I think that's kind of what was very successful in the 80s. So I honestly think these things come around. They're cyclical, and the next cycle will come along. But all right, that's what our most anticipated movies for the rest of the year are for the Untitled
And the
Film
future.
Project podcast. Yes, we did sneak in Dune there for 2024. Now, thanks for following us. For anybody who's hearing us for the first time, where can they find us?
Untitled Film Project. Just type it in anywhere. You'll find us.
All right.
What? That's true.
We're everywhere.
Or you can go to UntitledFilmProjectPod.com and find our socials there as well.
And written reviews by Mr. Gover himself.
See, that would be a more use of our plug than it would be just type it in. It can be whatever.
They're going to tune out by the time I get to listing everything, Gover. If somebody wants to find something, they're going to go to Google and just type in the name of what we are. They're not going to type in the full URL because nobody does that.
I swear, there's probably going to be one person that comes up to at least one of us and says, your podcast is okay, but I really enjoy when you get mad about talking about marketing the socials at the end. It's my favorite part. I go right to it. Forget the movies.
My favorite part.
Says a lot.
Thank you for listening to the Untitled Film Project podcast. To support the show, please rate, review, follow, and subscribe. Original music by Jeremy Schwartz. Special thanks to the Music City Film Critics Association. Editing and post-production by Jeremy K. Gover. Voiceover by Chad Bennett.